Good morning, everyone. I guess class has begun. Right. So, in brief, just it is an overview that NPA. So, it emerged due to these three important aspects: disciplinary crisis. Discipline was facing crisis during 50s and 60s. Then institutional crisis, we say. Institutional in the sense, public administration as an action part. So it was not able to respond to the changing situations as it was bureaucratic. And the crisis in US. The US had also certain crisis-like situations. The crisis-like situations can be in terms of two assassinations and unemployment, social unrest, etc., which were undergoing. So these things result into some young scholars meeting at Minnebrew conference first, and there they did redefine public administration. The conference was held under the leadership of Dwight Waldo, and this is how they redefined in terms of 3 NT goals and 5 goals. And then we can talk some general characteristics of new public administration. Or new public administration is synonymous with what at Minnebrook First Conference they characterized or they contributed. And that is how concept of new public administration emerged. It has impact in terms of first making public administration more grounded in social ethics. That is called morality and ethics. And we have been talking, although there was talk on morality and ethics in public administration, even let's say from Aristotle or Kautilya time, but the contribution of new public administration was that its impact was that it re-emphasized, means its emphasis resulted into a kind of reminder. So it worked as a reminder that you see the public administration values are more democratic rather than management. And that can be one impact. Another impact was that it introduced public administration as politics, and it has also helped in discipline when it was facing crisis during the third and fourth paradigm. So it also helped in the thinkers to get certain confidence and think that public administration can be also an independent discipline. It has also impact on the practice of public administration, not only theory. Practice is that public administration should become more close to society. That is, it should help solving the problems of society. If any such theory, approach and principle, if it does not solve the problems of society, so we should not build theory just for the sake of theory building. That is how he talks about. And we related also some of the things like citizen charter, if you say. So when you talk about citizen charter, although it has a different context, but if you see citizen charter, or if you see citizen friendliness, or if you see about single window system, or we also related ki, may I help you, etc. I guess have we told, right? So these things we told that ki how you can relate some of the applied aspect or some of the things which are in practice, and that is how we can consider as impact. But yes, it has some criticisms, which we'll talk about those criticisms. Then we'll talk whether it has any relevance. Certainly, it will have some relevance. So impact is also relevance. So this is how we have to continue. Then we'll take Minobrook, second, third, etc. So let's start with what was the last point? And delegation. So see, you can write also many different ways. If you read different literature, they write differently. That does not mean when you have to write your answer, you should write all. So it is also simple way. It depends whether you write 15 words, 150 words, you write 250 words, you write 300 words. Which answer you are writing? So suppose you write 150 words, you should not try to write each and everything. It is not possible. So 4Ds are also characteristics when you talk. No doubt 3 NT goals and 5 goals are the most important characteristics, most dominant characteristics. Any other thing you don't need to write. But still, let's say that when you want to get certain variety of option, or it is said that when you face 2 similar questions in the paper, so you should not repeat your content. So when you should not repeat your content, so this is how, let's say, you should have some other things also. So that is how it gives you certain leverage that when you know different ways, so you can also write in different way. And that is how 4 Ds we talk: democratization, decentralization, debureaucratization, and delegation as the characteristics of new public administration. Right. Then we'll write about acceptance and rejection. Acceptance and rejection by acceptance and rejection by new public administration. I guess we told these things, less generic, more public. That is what Dwight Waldo talks about. No, less generic, more public, specific. So, less generic, more public, less empirical, more normative, less formal, more informal. So, these things are the other characteristics, isn't it? Then you can write acceptance and rejection by NPA. So, already we know at 3 NT goals, so what they reject and what they accept. If you take, let's begin with one thing, hierarchy. Hierarchy? Right. So what they accept? Flexible structure. Then they reject the separation of politics and administration. So what they will talk? Fusion. Fusion or cooperation. Then value free. Value free they reject. So what they accept? Value laden. Then empirical, normative. Then means oriented. Then next status, change. Then these are a kind of revision also. We tell multiple time deliberately so that by the time you finish, you have in memory. So it should be told in such a fashion that you get in memory, you remember at least by the time you appear in mains examination. So acceptance, rejection. What may other things we can talk? Right. This formal, structural. So what they will talk about? Informal, behavioral. This many things are there. They reject deterministic. So what they will have? Right. Then administration as management, administration as politics, right. Efficiency, what they will talk? Effectiveness. So centralization, decentralization, was 10 adequate. Further you can write. Think yourself you can write on this. So the acceptance side can also be characteristics. These things can also be considered as characteristics. Right. So if you talk about NPA in terms of what, why, how, so what do you get? What public administration should do? Right. If you take classical, so what they say? What public administration should do? Build principles. Right. Or implement, that way also we can take. Why it should do? For 3 age. And how it should do? Value free. Right. Or scienticism, facts. Scienticism. What NPA say? What it should do? See, the real challenge comes when question begins. This is how it is. So, challenge is not that you know, don't forget about it. Isn't it? You think that I know it. Yes, you know, but challenge is when you face the question. Right. Then what you write. Isn't it? So now you are facing a question. Right. So what NPA says? What NPA should do? Redefine the principles. Right. Redefine principle means फिर से principle build करो. Right. It is not about redefinition of principle. It's about solving problem. The focus is changed. Right. So traditional public administration, what it should do? Build theories and principles. Right. Basically, its focus is on solving problems of society. Right. Why it should do? Right. So no doubt 3E, but it is more about it should do to achieve goals. It should do to achieve goals, not merely efficiency. It should not merely be productivity oriented. Right. Productivity, what you will do of productivity? Many flyovers you build, traffic remains. Right. Many houses you build, still people are houseless. So ultimately problem remains. Right. Isn't it? So we have thousands of, government will claim government has many Aushadhalaya it had set up, isn't it? Jan Aushadhalaya, etc. But what happened? Basic health infrastructure you do not have. You can see in Muzaffarnagar and Bihar. So we can claim health for all. Right. What people will say? So that is how, let's say that it's to achieve the goals. Why it should? Because this. Right. Why it should? Because public administration is about welfare of people. Right. Public administration is about welfare of people. And how it should do? Yes, so value laden way. Value laden. Right. Or normative. Right. How it should do? Democratically. It should do democratically. Right. This way. So it should not do being formal, structural, right, theoretically. It should not do this way, rather it should be more in a democratic way. Can we say this? So this is what, let's say that ki NPA. When we talk about new public administration. So now we'll take that impact of new public administration. Impact of new public administration. The contributions of Minnebrook First Conference. The contributions of Minnebrook First Conference. Minnebrook First Conference gave rise to new public administration. New public administration in 1960s. 1960s. That time it influenced public administration. It influenced public administration in following fashion. In following fashion. First, it minimized the difference between theory and practice. It minimized the difference between theory and practice. Practice. So far, public administration was more theoretical oriented. So far, public administration was more theoretical oriented. But due to NPA, the focus also shifted. The focus shifted to practice orientation. Practice orientation. Practice orientation, especially solving the problems of society. Solving the problems of society. Are you able to understand what we mean? We keep saying solving the problems of society. इसका मतलब क्या है? Suppose you belong to any area and you can be considered as one educated person, and still in that area, let's say certain things remain and you don't do anything. What people will say? Right. So your education is of no use, isn't it? So your education has not benefited. Even if you have taken education, many people take education, they do lots of degrees, still they are having lots of superstition. No, शाम को पैसा नहीं देना है, नहीं तो पैसा रहेगा नहीं, पैसा आएगा तभी तो रहेगा. Right. This is how. तो एटीएम शाम को पैसा देना बंद कर देगा, इसलिए गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया के पास पैसा नहीं रहेगा. Right. The businessmen, etc., it is superstition in our country, isn't it? People will not give you money at means evening time. This is how it is said. So basically, let's say that this is more theoretical oriented. You have theory, you have good people, you can have Chandrayaan mission, you can have satellites, you can have nuclear weapon, but basic thing for people, if they struggle, that is how those things are of no use. Right. Those things you can take as theory because they are all scientific developments and the problems of the society. So if the scientific developments are not able to solve problems of society, to forward those developments. Basically, this is how they say, and that is how, let's say that any theory. Why I am relating with this? Because you should know that a satellite is launched, but it has less applicative value. All satellites do not have applicative values. They are launched for the sake of launching because they are scientific achievements. Like SARC satellite. The SARC satellite, you launch it, but what Afghanistan will do of that satellite? Right. First it needs peace and harmony, then satellite. So basically, let's say that SARC satellite, if you talk, so India already is very advanced, it does not need a separate satellite. So basically a SARC satellite application in Nepal and in Afghanistan, in Sri Lanka, in Bangladesh, if they utilize the satellite, then it will have relevance. Otherwise, there is a more name, SARC satellite has been launched. Right. So basically, let's say that a theory, if it is not able to solve the problems, that was their main contention. When you are building a theory, so it should solve the problems of society. That is called practice-oriented. Theory should become also practice-oriented. It is not that theory should be developed simply for the sake of theory building. That is how it bridges the difference or the gap between theory and practice. This we can say. The next point you can write. Social justice. Social justice. Right. Became among the most important objectives. Social justice became among the most important objectives in public administration. Public administration, especially along with 3 E's. Especially along with 3 E's, efficiency, economy, effectiveness. Social justice henceforth has been emphasized as an important value. Important value, which was also emboldened by theory of justice of John Rawls. Theory of justice of John Rawls. Right. Next. John Rawls you will be knowing. If you do not know now, henceforth know. So this is how, let's say, theory of justice concept, and theory of justice has given another principle called social justice, and that was also given during 60s. So you should know new public administration and theory of justice, Blackburg Manifesto. There were some other developments. They were emphasizing on values of public administration. So this is how it was not only approach which was emphasizing on values. At that time, there were also some other approaches also emphasizing on values and social justice. Next point. Right. Its emphasis on administration as politics approach. Its emphasis on administration as politics approach. Right. Brought changes in the philosophical foundation. Brought changes in the philosophical foundation of public administration. Public administration. Right. Because in past it was administration as management. Administration as management. Administration as management. Next, it influenced the discipline and practice of public administration. It influenced the discipline and practice of public administration. Okay. Due to emphasis on administration as politics. Administration as politics. And it played a contributory role. It had a contributory role in re-emergence of public administration. Re-emergence of public administration as a separate discipline. Re-emergence of public administration as a separate discipline. As a separate discipline. In fifth paradigm. In fifth paradigm. Separate discipline in fifth paradigm, paradigm 5. Next. Right. NPA influence also. NPA also influence the field of ethics in public administration. The field of ethics in public administration. Due to its values. Due to its values in terms of democratization, decentralization, citizen orientation, and social justice. Social justice. So these things can be considered as impact. Let's write criticisms of NPA. Criticisms of NPA. So what could be the possible criticisms? Do we find any criticism? Right. So what should be this? What does it mean? This is first criticism. So it is radical in words, but status quo in contribution. Contribution. Right. Another similar is NPA is radical in intent, but it lacks substance. Within this, another similar criticism, right? Within this, right? It gives, right, too much emphasis to goals, but too little means and how to achieve them. Can we say? So, are you able to understand these criticisms? Are you able to understand? No. Are you able to understand public administration? So, it has already been asked as question. Right. So, when we say radical in words, what does it mean? Radical in word means right. Radical means कि you give lofty ideas. This is how I can say. You want to have big bang reforms, big ideas. This is how. So radical, this is how we say that. Radical here means right. So they are giving big ideas, lofty ideals. This is so they are high on ideals. Right. 5 goals. But status quo in contribution. That is related. Status quo is also linked with substance, also linked with means and how to achieve. Substance means ki how we should achieve them. Merely talking about goals, yes, you'd say ki public administration should solve the problems of society. How? Democratically. It is very vague. This is how it is. It say it should solve the problems of society. How? How means democratically. No, but what does it mean democratically? Entire society is democratic. All societies are almost democratic today, but they have all problems. Right. So saying ki democratically, decentralization, delegation, so these are merely, let's say, nothing but counting of some words. You count them. Right. But they are not giving any substance how to solve them. Substance in the sense you should have some solutions, you should have some method, approach, principle again. Right. How you will solve them. So without any theory, principle, etc., theorization, you cannot solve. There should be some mechanisms. Those mechanisms they have not provided, that's why they lack substance. So you can give ideas, and this is how you'll aate jate log they keep giving ideas. Sorry to say that, but this is how you'll find in the train, in the metro, on the way, in the home also, isn't it? So you'll find people will keep giving. इसको खेलने नहीं आ रहा है, जिसने क्रिकेट कभी खेला नहीं वो बैठ के एडवाइस दे रहा है. Right. So the question isn't it? Nowadays cricket is going on, right? So जिसने कभी क्रिकेट खेला नहीं वो भी बैठ के टीवी के सामने एडवाइस देता रहता है अपना, right? So the question is that this is called theorizing, Means theorizing means, let's say that you do not give solution how it should not be done. Right. The person who is bowling there in the field, he is trying his best. Right. This is how. Whatever the method the person is applying may be working, may not be working. So that method is needed. This is how. That strategy is needed. So many people can give you advice sitting in the stadium outside, but the captain which is, let's say that he takes any initiative, any strategy he applies, that is the method to solve the problem. And which work at times, which also do not work at times. Both happens, but that's not the point. The point is that is the real strategy, that this is how they have failed to give. They are not giving you how exactly you should solve the problems of society, how it should become responsive. Fire brigade is not responsive, right? And we criticize it is not responsive, it reaches late. If it reaches on time, it has no water. If it has water, it has no pipe. Right. This is how. So basically the question is how you will keep them. तो कभी आप फायर ब्रिगेड के बिल्डिंग से क्रॉस करना तो सोचना कि how they keep themselves active, क्या करते होंगे. Right, because fire every day you are not getting fire that you have to, let's say that you go and douse fire. It will happen 6 months, it will happen 2 months. After 2 months you get a job, a task. So for 2 months what you should do? You should play card. Right. So how you will keep active? So for 2 months vehicle should be ready. पता चला after 2 months you get a call that there is a fire incident and the tire is punctured. Right. So how you maintain yourself? This is how it is. So you need to have certain strategy, mechanism, that is called substance. Anyone give idea that the fire brigade should be responsive? No. But how? So that is how, let's say that. That is what we are also doing most of the time. So when most of the issues happen, we theorize. Theorize means the sense we give advice. And many articles will be written, many people talk, we should do this, we should do that, we should ban, etc. All these things. Right. And after few days, same incident, similar incident happened. Right. Again you promise we should do this, now we will not allow zero tolerance, etc. अब zero tolerance के बाद negative tolerance होता है, -1. Right. So that is how you will find this substance, I guess you understand this. So few lines more you can write on this aspect. So similar incidents happen on the eve of Diwali, yes. So Amritsar incident happened. Right. In Amritsar, 40 people were mauled down by train. And then Karol Bagh incident happened. This is nearby. Right. And then Surat incident happened. Unfortunately, sorry to say, but next will also happen. I mean, somewhere we do not know the place. And similar incidents there, where you need to have some mechanisms to solve, but we promise only anyhow. Let's try this. So, right, they set high ideals. They set high ideals, but they fail to provide substance. They set high ideals, but they fail to provide substance. Substance in terms of mechanisms, methods, approaches, even a theory needed for achieving the high ideals. Achieving the high ideals. The mechanisms they provided were very vague and general. The mechanisms they provided were very vague and general. Vague and general. That is, democratization, decentralization, debureaucratization, and delegation. Delegation. Right. So that is what, so this is the most important criticism to new public administration. That is how you should understand. So you talk about ideals, high ideals, etc., isn't it? But आप set कर लो goal 18 hours, I'll study 18 hours. No, 18 hours. कैसे? This is how. So 18 hours पढ़ने के लिए पहले तो वो स्मार्टफोन है उसको फेंकना पड़ेगा. राइट. इसलिए कि 2 घंटा तो सिर्फ व्हाट्सएप देखने में लगता है. कोई मैसेज आया है कि नहीं? राइट, इजंट इट? मैसेज नहीं आया तो क्यों नहीं आया है? So this is how you'll find. Calculate your number of hours in day. So 2 hours you give time to your these all WhatsApp etc. isn't it? So you cannot study 18 hours. और कोई एक friend आ जाएगा तो क्या होगा? 2 hours he will take. No, let's have a tea. So then you can calculate. This is how. The high ideals you cannot achieve unless you have mechanisms how to achieve. That is more important. So second criticism let's take. So what could be second criticism? Means are also important. Means are also important. Means are also important. Means theory, principles, techniques. Theories, principles, techniques are also important. Theories are hypothetical explanation of how to solve a problem. Theories are hypothetical explanation of how to solve problems. And if one does not have theory, one may fail to solve problems. One may fail to solve problems. Hence, theories cannot be rejected by merely saying. Theories, techniques, principles cannot be rejected by merely saying that they are formal, structural, and means oriented. So theory cannot be simply rejected by saying that they are formal, structural, and means oriented. Can we say? कोई भी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व करना होता है जब आप ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जॉब करोगे या जब एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर बनोगे और आपको प्रॉब्लम कुछ सॉल्व नहीं हो रहा है तो क्या करते हो आप? बुक्स पढ़ते हो. ऐसा होएगा, हो सकता है बुक्स. कोई लोग कुछ लोग मंदिर में भी जाएंगे. राइट. सो इट डिपेंड्स कि वेयर यू गेट आइडिया. बेसिकली यू वांट टू गेट एन आइडिया. तो जो साइंटिफिकली सॉल्व करना चाहेगा वो आइडिया, ही विल ट्राई टू गेट आइडिया. जो मैजिकल एलिमेंट्स में बिलीव करता है ही विल गो टू रेड. दिस इज हाउ. सो दैट इज हाउ यू विल फाइंड इट. तो certainly the day you read books, start reading, हो सकता है first line provides solution. Right. It may be quite possible. So you need to get ideas. This is how I can say. So ideas will come from theories and principles, knowledge, etc. So many a time you will not be able to solve problems. Right. That's why let's say that people, let's say those, be it administrator, academicians, intellectuals, media persons, etc., they have one thing common: wide range of reading. Right. One thing common in them is wide range of reading. Let's say that. This is how, and that's why they have many set of ideas. So that happens. So ideas make your application simple. You teach in a very, means you will apply that ideas in a very simple way. So that is how this we can say that. Means let's say for you in public administrations it will be a very struggling time. No, because you will study only limited books which are required. Let's say you don't have to study unlimited books. So that is how theories are also important. They cannot be simply rejected by saying that they are formal or they are mechanical. The next point. Right. Value-free approach is also needed. Value-free approach is also needed. That is, empirical method is needed for theory building. Empirical method is needed for theory building. Empirical method is needed for theory building. Theory building. Otherwise, discipline will lack its recognition. Discipline will lack its recognition, and there will be lack of objectivity. There will be lack of objectivity. Objectivity. Next, it is criticized as also old wine in a new bottle. No, old wine in a new bottle. More intoxicating. Don't write that part. Old wine in a new bottle. Right. It is a popular phrase, isn't it? So, old wine in a new bottle, that is, its goals, values, or radical ideas, goals, values, or radical ideas are not completely new. Are not completely new. Right. They existed in public administration in past. They existed in public administration in past. For instance, ethics, morality, values. So you can link it to also Aristotle, Kautilya, Wilson, right. Mahatma Gandhi. So it's not that they were talking new, right? So values, moralities, ethics, etc., that we talk about in terms of, let's say, democratic values. So they existed, right? For instance, let's say the Constitution of India. Constitution of India was, let's say, so it came into effect since this 1950, and this NPA is coming during 1960. Can we say that they were not aware? Or can we say that they are talking new? Right. The first thing you should know that democracy came into existence in modern times. So democracy came into existence in modern times. Then it was coming. So its values, etc. That's why we say that they have re-emphasized, or their emphasis resulted into reminder. It was a kind of reminder rather than talking something new entirely. This you can say. Similarly, in public, when Wilson is talking that public administration should be grounded in American ethos, what does it mean? American ethos? Right. Wilson. Since theory is coming after a lot of theoretical development, Taylor. Follett, Mayo. They have all talked about, they talk about values. He talks about fairness. You should know that Taylor is about fairness. Why? Application of science brings fairness in society. Can we say? Application of science will give you good marks if you write answer in main examination. If there is subjective standard, so क्या होगा? You will, let's say that, wait for magical elements to work. Right. And if there are certain objectivities in marking pattern of UPSC, so objectivity means scientific aspect. Objectivity brings fairness. Otherwise, what you do? A person does not deserve, you have given 330. And a person who deserves, he gets 300. Right. So Taylor was talking about scientific management. We'll talk you after some time when we teach all these topics. So that is how Follett talks about human values, etc. In fact, this is how they are known as human relationists. Their theories are known as human relationists. So they talk about human. Right. So there was a concept of democratic humanism. So they gave concept of democratic humanism. If you simply you write it, if you do not understand at this moment, so it should not be any problem. So you should not feel any tension on this. Simply because we will teach them, so there will talk you. We will teach you what is democratic humanism. When we talk about Chris Argyris, Douglas McGregor, and Lensis Likert, that let's say participative management. And when we'll teach you neo-human relationists, some thinkers, they are considered as democratic humanism. Democratic humanism means they were talking about development of organization as per human behavior. So, human behavior, let's say that. So, highest level of human behavior they were trying to develop. And that is how they had certain values aspects. So, it's not that the public administration did not experience before that. And that is how they are considered as, right, what we told that, old wine in a new bottle. Right. Means they were trying to talk the values talked in past in some new fashion. Right. What was that new fashion? Right. Hierarchy. New fashion was, right, solve the problems, give more emphasis to those, let's say, issues of people, and make it change oriented, goal oriented, or citizen oriented. This you can say. New was clearly giving a set of priorities. We'll talk somewhere what is new in new public administration. Let's write next criticism. Right. Its three anti-goals cannot be completely acceptable. Its three anti-goals, it gave its three anti-goals cannot be completely acceptable. That first, positivism is needed. First, positivism is needed. Second, dichotomy has not been completely rejected. Dichotomy has not been completely rejected. Third, tools and techniques are needed for efficiency. And next, even if there is debureaucratization, but bureaucracy has its relevance. Bureaucracy has its relevance. In fact, it is an essential institution of state. It remains an essential institution of state. It remains an essential institution of state. Next. Thinkers had narrow perspective. The thinkers had narrow perspective. The thinkers had narrow perspective. As they largely belong to political science, largely belong to political science, and they were primarily focusing on, or their main focus was on solving the problems of US administration, solving the problems of US administration, in particular. Right. So these are some criticisms of new public administration. Right. What relevance we can write? What can be considered as relevance? Let's write relevance and contemporary application of new public administration, or simply you can write relevance. Contemporary application will write in the end after teaching third Minobro conference. Relevance. Even if it lacks substance, in terms of theoretical contribution, but still NPA had its own relevance. Because of following reasons. First, it revived debate in public administration on democratic principle as philosophical foundation. Next, it made public administration more goal-oriented. Rather than means-oriented. It influenced further developments in public administration. Such as, first, the paradigmatic evolution of public administration. Second, ethics in public administration. Next, activist role by civil servants. Citizen friendly relationship. Policy commitment. Change the paragraph. NPA had a democratizing effect on public administration. NPA had a democratizing effect on public administration. On public administration. Next, it also influenced administrative reforms. Next separate point, it also influenced administrative reforms, both in terms of both structural and behavioral. It also influenced administrative reforms in terms of structural and behavioral. Structural and behavioral. Right. So these things can be considered as relevance. Next point, one more point you can write. Right. Right. Or a separate point. NPA as postmodern approach. NPA as postmodern approach. Postmodern approach. A subheading you can write, this is NPA as postmodern approach. Right. Postmodern approach. Postmodern approach. First, rejects grand narratives. Rejects grand narratives. Grand narratives, G-R-A-N-D, grand narratives. Second, it rejects universal approach, universal oblique deterministic approach, deterministic approach. Right. Change in paragraph. It propagates probabilistic approach. It propagates probabilistic approach. Probabilistic approach. Value-laden approach. Value-laden approach. Right. Since NPA also talks about probabilistic approach, since NPA also talks about probabilistic approach, and it rejects universality of classical approach. It rejects universality of classical approach. Hence, classical approach, hence, it is considered as a postmodern approach. Postmodern approach. It is also considered as a post-positivist approach. Post-positivist approach, as it is anti to positivism. As it is anti to positivism. Positivism. These are just certain referral knowledge you should have, right, just to make you aware, right. Somewhere is later, let's say that postmodern, there are 4 post aspects: postmodern, post-positivist, post-structural, and post-development. So you should be aware, I will tell you, keep telling all these things. Basically, when we say postmodern, basically if you talk about modern approach, so modernism was about grand narrative. Grand narrative means that there is a one way to govern only, that is called liberal democracy. Society should have industrial revolution. There should be mechanization. What are the standards of society? Industrialization, per capita income. So this is how you will find that there are certain grand narratives. So liberal economy, how economy should be run? So on the basis of liberal principle. How a democracy should be? It should be a liberal principle. These are considered as grand narrative, means then you ignore other practices. Like Asian tigers. Asian tigers did not adopt the Western model. They have adopted the model suiting to them. That's why you will find that ki Western society faces time to time economic crisis. But Asian tigers, etc., let's say there was once East Asian crisis, etc., but largely you will find that it was a very short-lived effect. And they have adopted their development model suiting to their country. This is postmodernism. Right. Means you cannot say that ki only liberal culture is better, other cultures are not better. Right. So modernism brought a grand narrative, means universal. The way classical thinkers were saying, ki their principles can be applied universally without testing into any such context. How can you say that your principles are rational and universal, right, without testing in different countries? Without testing in different countries. Like Taylor believes that peace rate systems, so people will get motivated. Indian condition, some people will not get motivated because they don't want to work. So they want to earn without work. Taylor is saying that you earn by work. But in Indian society, people want to earn without work. That's why they want to join government job. Right. The government sector they want to join because they don't want to work. And many people will say that अगर काम ही करना होता है तो मैं government को join करता. Right. So the question is, this is how it is. So Taylor principle will fail. Right. He thinks that if you give peace rates, so people will be motivated. Right. More peace rate means more incentives. So incentive will be resulting into. But India में तो कुछ लोग ऐसे भी जो they highly religious. They don't need peace rate. They are happy as they are. No. So that is how, let's say that means the theory cannot be universally applied, means whatever you are saying is one truth, not all the truths of society. This is called, when you say there is a one truth in society, that is called one way to achieve efficiency. That is called scienticism. So it is not true. Because many different people do not want to work, many other people don't want to earn. Right. Our Indian philosophy promotes sacrifice. No, the sacrifice karo. So that is how you will find it. This is called postmodernism. When you take into consideration the different people's belief, etc., right, that you may have heard about dialectalism, or let's say folk culture. There is a cosmopolitan culture also, there is a folk culture also. Right. The cosmopolitan culture is elite culture. It is not necessary that anyone who wants to become elite should adopt that cosmopolitan culture. Right. Because many people who become elite, but still they maintain their folk culture. Right. They may maintain their regional culture. So that is how, let's say that postmodern is about rejecting anything which is universal. Or when you say there is only one way to do this, that is rejected by new public administration when it says that society is probabilistic. Right. Society is in a state of becoming, change. So when society is in a state of becoming and change, so how can you have one universal model? So this is how you should understand. Even if you don't understand, not a problem. Right. Because we know that tomorrow means after some time we will understand this. Are you able to understand this? Right. So let's write next. What is new in new public administration? What is new in new public administration? So what is new in new public administration? Right. Let's try that. Although values of NPA are not completely new, but the way they have been portrayed, even woven, let's say woven or woven. So the way they have been woven means portrayed, right? That is new. That is new, right? That is, they have very clearly emphasized, which values are important, and why they are important. That is, they have very forcefully and articulatively, that is, they have very forcefully articulated, they have very forcefully articulated the values of public administration in terms of 5 goals and 3 anti-goals. That makes them new. That makes them new. Their emphasis on problem-solving orientation. Their emphasis on problem-solving orientation rather than theoretical orientation. Theoretical orientation has newness in their perspective. Newness in their perspective. So that is how it is. So the way you tell, right, the way you tell something, that may be new rather than what you are telling. Can we say this? Many a time, let's say that if you go to any reception, so what is new in that reception? If you have attended a set of past receptions, first time you attend, so it can be new. No. But when you go to attend anyone's party, etc., reception, dinner party, etc., so what is new menu in that? The new may not be, but the way they portray it, right, the way they present it, isn't it? So salad can be made in different way, right? And many a time you can wonder ki something else, new dish, right? And you can eat salad rather than, बाद में पता चला कि ये तो टमाटो था, right? Anyhow, so the question is the way it is portrayed. Right? So the way it is portrayed, that can be new. Let's say, so two friends of mine went to a Shoga hotel and then they came eating tomato. Right. This is how it is. That's why you have this. So the question is that it was portrayed in such a fashion, they found that is something different. Right. So the way it is portrayed, the way NPA is talking, that is new. It's not that the 5 goals and 3 anti-goals are new. They are old, already public administration had in past. But the re-emphasis they are doing the way clearly, the way Wilson was able to clearly articulate why you need public administration, what it should do and how it should do. Similarly, they are articulating very clearly that what should be the goals of public administration and why goals are important. Right. So goals are important to solve the problems of society. And that was a new talk by them, let's say in public administration, if you start its journey from 1887. Because 1887 to that time, largely focus was on organization. The organization, within organization they had the focus. The largely you focus, even if they are talking about, they will talk on 2 aspects, formal and informal. But ultimately it is organization. So formal was talked by classical, informal is talked by human relation behavioral. But ultimately you are talking organization, you are not talking people. Right. So people are different and their problems. They were trying to make this organization better so that it will solve the problem of People. What they are saying? No, we start from this. Organization should be structured as per the people's problem and etc. Rather than ki first we structure organization and then we start solving the problems. Right. So this frame they bring change. The focus should be on people. You start from there. So this organization should reflect what the people have the problem rather than first you structure it and then you solve it. Right. This, and that is how we can consider as new public administration. So this aspect. So then now we'll take about Minobrook's second conference, legacy of. So Minobrook legacy. This is how it is. You can give a subheading, Minobrook legacy, and then you can write Minobrook's second conference. This you can draw, you can make. It will help in presentation. Right. The words will not explain, but this will explain. Anyhow, so we are talking about Minobrook second. So let's write on this. Yes. Why? Accepted. Yes, reason behind that it is an important development. Even if it lacks substance, but it has some important aspect. No, thereafter it is not repackaging. This you should know that. That's why NPA told in that class when we started teaching that NPA means 6 stage and NPA means the contribution by Minobrook first. Thereafter Minobrook becomes a platform where the debate and discussion happens. They have some agenda, they debate and discuss. They don't try to make NPA as approach or NPA as theory relevant. Try to understand. Minobrook has become just a platform for debate and discussion. Right. No. Not on the basis of previous, rather they take the agenda of the present time. Yes. Minobrook second is held in 1988. They will take the agenda of 1988. What are the problems, issues, development during 1988 time that important for public administration, that they will debate. Similarly, when you take 2008, so they will take the agenda of 2008 means contemporary world, present world issue they will take, right? They will not move, or let's say they will not think about Minobrook 1, right? And whether it was something talked on Minobrook 1, so whether it is relevant or not, that they have not been doing. Rather, they are trying to take Minobrook as a platform where thinkers and practitioners can come together and debate and discuss on the present issues and challenges of public administration, and then they can propound certain ideas on the basis of that. Yes, platforms are the now more about contemporary development. Yes, this you should know. And that is how NPA emerges there. But a theory will not have 40 years of existence. Right. A theory or approach emerged, that time it has the influence, right, and thereafter basically other developments happen. So this way it should be taken. So let's write. So Minobrook conference second, right. Minobrook conference second. It was held in 1988. It was held in 1988 under the leadership of George Frederickson. Under the leadership of George Frederickson. George Frederickson. Right. This conference, this conference focused on the issues and challenges of 1980s, 1980s, although it was, although it was, although it was held to mark the legacy of, although it was held to mark the legacy of Minnebrook first, it was held to mark the legacy of Minnebrook first. It was held to mark the legacy of Minnebrook first. Right. The differences between Minnebrook first and second. The differences between Minnebrook first and second. Right. Are as follows. See, we will tell Minnebrook second by comparing itself. Rather than first you talk Minnebrook second, then you compare, so there will be repetition. Right. So when we compare it, so it is in a way also explaining it. And already Minnebrook 1 has been told, so we don't have, let's say, that must to talk on them. Simply you should know their set of characteristics or set of points. So let's say on the one side you write Minnebrook 1, other side Minnebrook second. Minnebrook 1 and Minnebrook second. This side you can write Minnebrook 1. So it was led by Dwight Waldo. It was led by Dwight Waldo. This side you can write. That side you can write. It was led by Frederickson. Next. It was held when public administration as a discipline and practice was facing crisis. It was held when public administration as a discipline and practice was facing crisis. This time, means that side, you should automatically write both sides by understanding yourself. So, it was held when public administration was under the influence of, it was held when public administration was under the influence of LPG. When public administration was under the influence of LPG. Hence, it had a different environment. Hence, it had a different environment. Next, the thinkers were radical, reactive. The thinkers were radical, reactive, ambitious, and rejectionary. This side. The thinkers were pragmatic, considerate, and receptive to past contributions. Right. Next. They had narrow perspective. As they largely belong to political science. This side. They had wide perspective. As they belong to, or as they had diverse field. And perspective. Next, they rejected all past contributions. They rejected all past contributions from Wilson to Simon. Minobrook first. They rejected all past contributions from Wilson to Simon. Right, from Wilson to Simon. They were receptive to, in Minobrook second, they were receptive to contributions of classical and behavioral approaches. Next, CPA remain an important agenda in Minobrook first. CPA remain an important agenda of the conference. CPA remain an important agenda of the conference. This side. CPA was dropped as an agenda. CPA was dropped as an agenda. CPA was dropped as an agenda as it was facing crisis. Next, they redefined public administration. They redefined public administration in terms of 5 goals and 3 anti-goals. They redefined public administration in terms of 5 goals and 3 anti-goals. This time, they did not have such clear and forceful redefinition. They did not have clear and forceful redefinition. Change in power of. When Minobrook second was held, the environment of public administration was profoundly influenced by LPG. There were emphasis like rolling back of state, privatization, contracting out, etc. Hence, under this environment, Minobrook second, although debated on democratic values propagated by Minobrook first. At the same time, it has also some new agenda. At the same time, it had also some new agendas, such as first leadership, second environmental issues, next gender perspective in public administration, changing paragraph, but it failed to clearly contribute clearly contribute to public administration. Public administration. And it tacitly accepted, T-A-C-I-T, it tacitly accepted, chupke chupke, it tacitly accepted LPG, LPG. Hence, Mohit Bhattacharya describes Minobrook's second as Minobrook's second outcome as constrained hopefulness. Constrained hopefulness. So what does it mean? Basically try to understand that it was LPG environment, and when LPG environment, so LPG is more about philosophy of management and economics. But Minobrook first was more about democratic principle. Minobrook first was propagating the idea of administration as politics. But when Minobrook second is held, so you know that there is an idea of administration as management. And it is very overwhelming. Overwhelming in the sense that marketization, liberalization, you should know, is still marketization, liberalization. Today you say that Air India should be run by government, so who will accept? Whether people will accept? Yes, especially bureaucrats will accept because they go free on, isn't it? So they will accept it. So if you talk the solution for Air India today, so certainly it is, the solution is privatization. Right. This. But if you talk the solution of Air India, 1950s, so what will be? Right. So it will be nationalization. Why? Environment. Right. Environment was welfare. Environment is right. So in the era of LPG, if you talk welfare, so people will not accept. And in the era of welfare, you talk LPG, so that will not be accepted by people. Isn't it? Can we say this? Right. So environment. Therefore, when their, let's say that conference was held, so they did not have legitimacy of emphasizing solution of public administration within public administration. If they will talk that public administration should be again responsive, efficient, it should solve the problems of society by what? It should make a state more relevant, administration more relevant. So in the era when others are saying, state is no longer relevant, bureaucracy is no longer, they were talking debureaucratization, they are saying bureaucracy itself is not relevant. So bureaucracy, that is how rolling back of state. In the era of rolling back of state, when you privatize, so that time when you let's say hold your conference, so you will not be able to, let's say, talk about the democratic values, otherwise it will not be accepted. And you cannot accept their values because your legacy is different. Your legacy is different. Your legacy was administration as politics. So you are setting the conference to mark the legacy of first. So at least you will follow it, administration as politics. Right. But you find that there is a greater influence of administration as management. So that is how it is called constrained hopefulness. Right. They did not have much hope, let's say that. Their contribution was also not very clear. What they contributed, that is also not very clear. So therefore, let's say that they remain more moderate, right, rather than radical, and in terms of both substance and intent. So in case of one, they had intent, lack substance, but in case of second, they lack both. Right. So their intent was also not radical, and there was no substance at all. Right. That is what it is. So this way, this is how you should know about all these Middlebrook's second conference. Because simply they have not, let's say, come to the platform to propagate that. They belong to the philosophy of public administration as politics. They belong to, their background is they have to support public administration as politics. Right. This. So it is like left, let's say that a left ideologue person has been, let's say, brought on a platform of economic policy in the era of liberalization. Right. So he will not support liberalization fully. He will not fully support liberalization, but he will not be so confident about his own idea propagation. Right. So his role will be right, very limited. Anyhow, so that you can say about second conference. Right. Anyhow, by the way, you should know that Air India was first private. Right. 1940s, it was established by J.R.D. Tata. It was private. It was nationalized, let's say, during 50s, 60s. Right. And perhaps again it will go in private by 1940s. Because there are no buyers. So for 20 years, government will search buyers. Right. And probably Tata will take over after 100 years. Anyhow, so let's talk on this. So let's take Middlebrook third conference. It was held in 2008 to mark Middlebrook legacy. To mark Middlebrook legacy. It was led by Rosemary. Larry. So, further theme of Middlebrook. Its theme was future of public administration as old public administration, new public management, new public service. So present public administration is characterized by this. Public administration as old public administration, new public management, and new public service. Right. Agenda. So they had contemporary agenda which were debated. The meeting was held in 2 sessions. The meeting was held in 2 parts, 2 sessions. The first part was about debate and discussion on agenda. And the second part was about Right. Course of action. Course of action. Following agendas. Following agendas. Following agendas guided. Minobrook first. First, public administration, new public management. Public administration, new public management, network governance. Network governance. Policy and public management. Policy and public management. Comparative public administration. Comparative public administration. Information and communication technology. Information and communication technology. Global warming. Global warming. Terrorism. Terrorism. Economic crisis, etc. etc. The conference had three important contributions. The conference had three important contributions. Three important contributions. First, they clearly articulated that comparative public administration remains an important field. Comparative public administration remains an important field. Remains an important field, and there should be comparative studies. There should be comparative studies. Second, the methods of theory building should be methodological pluralism. Methodological pluralism. Methodological pluralism. It means first, thinkers should be receptive. Thinkers should be receptive to methods and approaches of Thinkers should be receptive to methods and approaches. Methods and approaches. That is, they should accept different methods and approaches. Different methods and approaches, rather than rejecting them. Rather than rejecting them. Rather than rejecting them. And what do you mean by this? Next, second, they should follow social action research. They should follow social action research method. Which are problem-solving techniques. Which are problem-solving techniques. Problem-solving techniques. Right. And third contribution, they gave a new definition of public administration. They gave a new definition of public administration. New definition of public administration. Socially embedded process of dialogue and action. Socially embedded process of dialogue and action for the promotion of human flourishing for all. For the promotion of human flourishing for all. Human flourishing for all. So you need to understand these things. If you take 2008, so what was the 2008 situation? Right. So 2008 was guided by 2008, right? 1998, 1988, 1968. So what things you can find? So what similarity you can find? Can we find any similarity? Yes. Status. Do we find difference? What difference you can find? Social context. Discipline was in crisis. Right. This is the era of public administration as public administration. And this is the era of public administration as governance or multidisciplinary. What was the environmental crisis? So crisis-like situation. There was a crisis-like situation US was facing. The US was facing crisis. Right. Vietnam War, etc., all these things. Right. Largely here you can find economic, not crisis but problems. Right. For instance, we had new economic policy. Why we had new economic policy? Because there was economic crisis. PSUs were not earning profits, etc. So economic problems were faced by both developed and developing. This time, economic crisis. Who is facing? It was US, led by then European Unions. The European Unions you can find, they were also facing crisis. Then US was also facing domestic problem, internal crisis. You should know that US was undergoing similar crisis. There was cyclone which was named as Katrina. Cyclones are named, this is how. So cyclone Katrina, let's say, in US, and bureaucracy was not responsive to that. In recent times, if US bureaucracy faced criticisms, it was aftermath of cyclone Katrina. And bureaucracy was not responsive. So US bureaucracy was sharply criticized. Right. This to that situation. Then what happens? You have many other crises, global issues, terrorism, climate change, etc. Right. So you find some environmental differences or situational differences, you'll find. And then what similarity difference you find? So which mnemonic is more, let's say that case, similar? Right. So 1 and 3 will be more? Right. There will be similarity between 1 and 3. Right. And similarity only not in terms of environment. Similarity also in terms of contribution. You should know that second has not contributed anything very clear. But third has contributed at three things very clear. It very clearly says what should be the methods of study. It says you follow methodological pluralism. So don't debate on either or. If you have normatives, it is rejected, you adopt empirical. If you have empirical, it is rejected, you say normative. So they are saying that this silsila should stop. This acceptance rejection should stop. So you should not, let's say, reject any thinker who has adopted empirical method. So you should not reject and say, there should be normative method. And if somebody has adopted normatives, you should not reject and say, no, it is not empirical. So they have given more clarity on what should be the methods of study. And they say that you follow methodological pluralism. And methodological pluralism means that public administration can have a set of methods. Empirical also, normative also, interpretivist also, right, and some other social action research methods also. This is how you can follow. So there will not be one method, that is a more clear idea. It gives clarity on what should be the methods of disciplinary inquiry. Right. And second, it had for the first time any clear definition has been given by any such platform. Right. Otherwise, we had either definition by Paul Appleby or Wilson or Gladden or White. So we had definition of public administration by a single thinker. But now let's say that after evolution of 6 paradigms, they have given a very clear definition of public administration, that how we can define public administration, and they define public administration in a very broad way, socially embedded process. So when we say socially embedded process, means public administration is grounded in its social environment. Right. Dialogue and action. The dialogue is about academic aspect. Right. And action is about practice aspect. So public administration is both discipline and as well as institution. This is how dialogue and action. So public administration is both discipline and institution, which is grounded in its social environment. And its aim is to promote human flourishing. Means this is how they make it very generic. When you say 3 E's, so it becomes very specific. So they combine, let's say, human. They don't take the name of citizen or client. Human is common to both. So this is how public administration today is, let's say, about human flourishing rather than for citizen or client. So they have given a very broad definition of public administration, which represents the contemporary society, contemporary reality. If you talk in terms of contributions, if you talk in terms of environmental problems, so Minobrook 1 and 3, they have commonalities. And we can say that both were crisis-ridden development. So it was also a crisis-ridden development. It is also a crisis-ridden development. So it is not merely marking the legacy, it is, let's say, held. The conference is held in the environment of crisis. And that is how you'll find. Then another common element you can find in them is that called comparative public administration. You know that CPA was dropped here because CPA had declined by that time. If you when we read CPA, the CPA declined by 1970s. The CPA was dropped, but CPA has become an important agenda here, and CPA remains important agenda as here. So this. So this is how, let's say, you'll find. But still, let's say that Minnebrook third has, still we have to talk some more things about Minnebrook third, but that will talk. So have a brief aspect on comparative aspects. So let's write a comparative view of Minnebrook 1, 2, 3. A comparative view of Minnebrook 1, 2, 3. First, second, and third. Although they have been set up in three different environments, they have been set up in three different environment, but still they have similarity and differences. Similarity and differences. The similarity, let's say, the similarity between them can be, first emphasizing on democratic way of governance. Democratic way of governance. Democratic way of governance rather than administration as management approach. Administration as management approach. Second, continuing the values and goals. Continuing the values and goals set at Minnebrook first. Set at Minnebrook first. Third, getting influenced by environment of its time. Getting influenced by environment of their times. Environment of their times. So these things can be considered as common. Let's differences. 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 They have differences due to changes in public administration and society. Changes in public administration and society. That Minnebrook first was in the backdrop of crisis of identity. Minnebrook first was in the backdrop of crisis of identity. Crisis of identity, and hence it tried to find out solution. It tried to find out solutions to the crisis of discipline and practice of public administration. To the crisis of discipline and practice of public administration. Practice of public administration. Its context was also classical approach. Its context was also classical approach. Classical approach. Hence, it gave emphasis on goals. It gave emphasis on goals rather than means. Second, Minnebrook second was held to mark the legacy of Minnebrook first. Minnebrook first. Hence, its context was 20 years of NPA. 20 years of NPA rather than classical approach. Rather than classical approach. Hence, it was influenced by Hence, it was influenced by privatization movement. Privatization movement. Rather than means and ends. Rather than means and ends. Minobrook third. Minobrook third. It was held in 2008, and public administration had experience. Public administration had experience by that time 6 overlapping paradigms. 6 overlapping paradigms. Overlapping paradigms. And it was held in a rapidly changing environment. It was held in a rapidly changing environment. Rapidly changing environment. That time, nation states were facing multifarious challenges. Multifarious challenges. Multifarious challenges in terms of economic crisis, terrorism, climate change, etc. By this time, public administration had become a multidisciplinary subject. By this time, public administration has become a multidisciplinary subject, as well as it was facing still problem of which type of discipline it is. Which type of discipline it is. Hence, change in paragraph. There seems to be more similarity. There seem to be more similarities between Minobrook 1, means first and third, then first and second, then first and second, or second and third. Second and third. The similarities are as follows. Similarities are as follows. First, both were crisis-ridden development. Both were crisis-ridden development. Crisis-ridden development. Second, both were crisis-ridden development. Second, both had clear contribution. Both had clear contribution to public administration. That Minobrook first in terms of 5 goals, Minobrook first in terms of 5 goals, and Minobrook third in terms of CPA, methodological pluralism, CPA, methodological pluralism, and new definition of public administration. New definition of public administration. Next, CPA remain in their agenda. CPA remain in their agenda of debate and discussion. CPA remain in their agenda of debate and discussion. Both times, America was also facing crisis. America was also facing crisis. So that is comparative aspect. Already they have asked this question, comparative aspect in 2000, I guess 2012, 11 or 12. Comparison between 1, 2, 3. So that question has been asked. Right. We have been expecting a question from this perspective, the similarity between first and third, right, in respect of first and second or second and third. This you can say. But let's write some other aspects. So other developments, other developments related to Minnebrook third. Other developments related to Minnebrook third conference. So first, a break from past. A break from past. Right. For the first time, within this, for the first time, thinkers, non-European thinkers, non-Western thinkers rather, for the first time non-Western thinkers also participated. Especially from South Africa, Asian tigers, countries, and Asian tigers countries like Japan, Thailand, etc. This is all fine. But not from India. Don't write. Who is a thinker? Do we have thinker? Thinker को तो हम भगा देते हैं यहाँ से. मैं नहीं, society. Thinking. Right. Anyhow, we don't have, sorry to say that, you don't have acclaimed academicians in our society. And if you have acclaimed academicians in some other fields, you don't respect. We don't respect them. Right. So that's why bureaucrats, IAS still gets most of the respect. Summation of all respect in society is respect to IAS. That is how people want to still become IAS, right? Isn't it? Anyhow, so you have education panel. Education panel is headed by Subramaniam, TSR Subramaniam. Who is that person? Ex-cabinet secretary. A bureaucrat is heading the committee for reforming education. That is respect to academician. Right. So, although you will say that no, bureaucrat is also fit for. Right. This is how it is, because you want to become bureaucrat. So, this is how the situation in our country. Anyhow, let's write. You have to nurture talent. Right. So, what we are saying? Non-Western thinkers. You should know Guru Murthy, something, he became RBI member. तो उन्होंने क्या बोला? He told that कि जो केरला में हो रहा है वो पता है क्यों हो रहा है? सुप्रीम कोर्ट के जजमेंट से हो रहा है. सबरीमाला. राइट. तो वो आरबीआई में क्या करेंगे पता है आपको? Right. This is how you have intellectuals. So they link it. Right. और कारकारे का डेथ किसी के कर्ज से हुआ. I cursed him. दिस इज हाउ इट इज. तो किसी को ब्लेसिंग भी दे दो, कोई डेड है उसको अलाइव करने के लिए. नो, इफ यू कैन कर्स ए पर्सन टू डाई, तो यू कैन ऑल्सो गिव ब्लेसिंग टू डेड पर्सन टू. That should also happen. Right. Anyhow, but Bhopal people have elected. Right. So that is intellectualism, but let's come to public administration. So let's write further what you are writing. Non-Western thinkers also participated. Right. Further related. Therefore, within that, therefore, it is considered as a very paradigmatic development in terms of recognition to non-Western thinkers and Minobrook also becoming open to developing countries. It also gave a perspective that, it also gave a sign that Minobrook is not only about solving American problems. Minobrook is not only about solving American problems. In future it would become a platform. For solving global problems. What is the significance of this? Significance ये है, you should know that public administration means Anglo-American administration. Right. Because public administration, when we teach, so we teach about Nicholas Henry. What he writes about US administration. So Wilson is the founder of public administration, but he was trying to solve the problems of US. Goodenough was trying to solve the problem of US. L.D. White was writing in that context. Taylor was trying to solve the problem of US. Right. Fayol was trying to solve the problem of French. Right. So this is how we'll find that most of the thinkers belong to West. Most of the thinkers have faced the Western environment, and they were trying to solve the problems of Western environment. They did not have any experience of developing countries. That's why public administration means it is considered as Anglo-American, or in more specific, so American. And questions are also asked by UPSC, so American. What do you have in your public administration? So we do not have any academic development in our country. Right. This is how you will know and you will regret, although. But since we had all developments in ancient times, we don't need today. Isn't it? So we can learn from past and get motivated. So the question is that American public administration, in this backdrop, it has significance that for the first time, thinkers from non-Western countries are invited in the Minobrook conference and in debate and discussion and agenda. That is a recognition to developing countries. First, it is recognition also that Minobrook is not a only platform for solving American public administration problems. And let's say that in future it can become basically Minobrook 4th when it is going to be held. So certainly some Indians will also find their place. So when Minobrook 4th is going to be held, so that will become more global and less American. That is how it had its significance. Right. So this, let's write next point. Right. Governance in dark times. Governance in dark times. DARK, don't get panicked. Right. Governance in dark times. Right. This term was coined at Minnebrook conference. This term was coined at Minnebrook conference due to first the global issues and problems, such as terrorism, economic crisis, climate change, food security, energy crisis, etc. They have posed immense challenge to public administration. They have posed immense challenge to public administration. Immense challenge to public administration. And second, right, at conference, they did not provide any solution to these problems. At conference, they did not provide any solution to these problems. These problems. Right. Third, they were not able to find out solutions. They were not able to find out solutions. Which also came to be considered as weakness of public administration. Weakness of public administration. Although they opined, उन्होंने बोला, क्या बोला? Although they opined that the problems would be found by public administration in future. Right. The problems would be, solutions will be found by public administration in future. Solutions would be found, rather problem, in future. And hence it came to be known as governance in dark times. Hence it came to be known as governance in dark times. Means governance in the time when you don't have solution. Right. So they are not able to find solution. That's why it is considered governance in dark times. The last, what time? The third point, the cul-de-sac of disciplinary statute remains. Cul-de-sac. We have used this term. Right. So they fail to find out. Find out disciplinary crisis in terms of status of the discipline. Status of the discipline. According to Mohit Bhattacharya, it was lost opportunity. It was lost opportunity for Minnebrook third. Opportunity wasted. It was lost opportunity for It was a lost opportunity, not last. It was a lost opportunity for Minnebrook Third. As the conference happens every 20 years, as the conference happens every 20 years, 20 years. And the thinkers avoided this question. The thinkers avoided this question. Avoided this question. Which was the most important question? Which was the most important question? That whether public administration is an independent discipline, and what the discipline should do. What the discipline should do. Discipline should do. Basically, you should know that Dwight Waldo had given his view during 1960s. And you should know that 1960s, 2008, so you are meeting after almost 4 decades. So you should have at least given your view that whether we can consider it as a discipline or whether you still agree with Dwight Waldo contention. If you define it as a mental paralysis, that seems to you have rejected. So when you have given a definition, so you have rejected that contention. Then whether the Waldo view that it has the core defined, periphery changing, right? So you should have told, means thinkers should have at least debated on that issue, which is the most important issue, right? So they say disciplinary questions, right? So somehow they put aside disciplinary question and they take the applied questions. No. What is the discipline? So we will not answer. What the discipline should do, we will answer. So that is how it is considered somehow wasted opportunity, because now you will wait for 2028, right? And then whether it will be talked or not. So by the time this will remain. So that is how we can say, but still we can conclude some positive things, so let's write on this. Right. So even if Minnebrook Third Conference is criticized, Minnebrook Third Conference is criticized for not taking up disciplinary question, but at the same time, it has given the clear trajectory of public administration. It has given clear trajectory, perspective. It has given clear trajectory, perspective of public administration in terms of first, a clear definition. Second, a clear definition. Second, right. What methods should be for disciplinary inquiry? What methods should be for disciplinary inquiry? No methods for disciplinary inquiry, don't write. Next. CPA as an important agenda. The last. The future of public administration. The future scope of public administration. Future scope, SCOP. The future scope of public administration will be guided by old public administration, new public management, and new public service. Right. So that is how we can say on Minnebrook Third Conference. So do you have any question regarding all these things? We finished largely. Tomorrow we'll take Minnebrook Fourth. And then we'll take public choice approach. So you should come reading public choice approach. Otherwise, you will have no choice. So, public choice approach, read from printed notes that we have given, read, or any other IGNOU material that you have, so that you can understand some of the things we talk. This is what it is. So, is it clear about, means whether things are clear about new public administration? New public administration. So, you should read some questions also regarding new public administration, whatever the question they have asked in recent times, right? And then whether you will be able to understand the question asked last year, which we read. So you read it, see whether you will be able to understand, otherwise you ask tomorrow. So let's finish today. Enjoy your life. Yes. LPG? Tacitly, not low-key manner. Somehow they don't have choice, but they cannot openly accept it. Right. When it comes to Minobrook third, so they are influenced by LPG. There is no question of acceptance. It is already is in practice. Now the question of acceptance of LPG is no longer important. Because you have seen LPG, its impact and post also. Right. So there is no question of its acceptance, let's say that. Rather, it was a question that you have to take all these agenda that we are talking about, subprime crisis, etc., coming out of this. So the question was not of acceptance, rather question was to find solutions to them. Right? Okay.